I never expected to inherit Greystone Manor. The sprawling Victorian house had loomed over our family like a dark cloud for as long as I could remember, passed down through generations of Blackstones who seemed more cursed than blessed by its ownership. When my great-aunt Cordelia died last spring, leaving me the sole heir in her will, my first instinct was to sell the damn place and be done with it. That was before I learned about the Ashfords. The letter from Cordelia's lawyer, Mr. Pemberton, arrived on a Tuesday morning that would change everything. Along with the deed and keys, he included a handwritten note from my aunt. Sarah, the house chooses its keeper. Don't let them take what isn't theirs. The truth lies in the walls. See, I should have heeded the warning in her cryptic words, but at 28, drowning in student loans and working 3 jobs just to afford my cramped Chicago apartment, the prospect of owning property, even haunted property, seemed like a miracle. The drive to Millbrook, Connecticut took 6 hours through autumn countryside that grew increasingly desolate as I approached the town. Greystone Manor sat on the outskirts, its Gothic silhouette visible from miles away. The house commanded a hill overlooking the valley, surrounded by ancient oaks that seemed to whisper secrets in the wind. As I pulled up the crumbling circular drive, I noticed a black sedan parked near the front steps. A woman in an expensive suit stood on the wraparound porch, her perfectly coiffed blonde hair catching the late afternoon light. She turned as my old Honda coughed to a stop, her smile as sharp as broken glass. "You must be Sarah Blackstone." "I'm Victoria Ashford. I've been waiting for you." The name hit me like ice water. Ashford. I'd heard whispers of that family throughout my childhood. Old money, old grudges, old secrets. My grandmother had always tensed whenever their name came up in conversation. "I'm here about the house. I represent certain interests that would very much like to purchase this property from you. We're prepared to offer significantly above market value." I studied her face, noting the way her eyes darted toward the upper windows as if expecting something to appear there. "I just inherited it. I haven't even been inside yet." "All the more reason to sell quickly. This old place is nothing but trouble." "Surely you know the stories." I did know some of them. Greystone Manor had a reputation that extended far beyond Millbrook's borders. Built in 1847 by my ancestor Jeremiah Blackstone, the house had been the site of multiple unexplained deaths, disappearances, and supernatural occurrences over the decades. Locals crossed themselves when they passed it, and even the bravest teenagers avoided it on Halloween. "What stories specifically?" Victoria's composure slipped for just a moment. "Oh, you know, the usual small-town nonsense. Ghosts, cold spots, things that go bump in the night. Nothing that can't be explained by old pipes and settling foundations." But I caught the tremor in her voice, the way she kept glancing at the house as if it might be listening to our conversation. "I appreciate the offer, Miss Ashford, but I think I'll hold on to the property for now. Maybe fix it up, turn it into a bed and breakfast or something." "That would be inadvisable. This house has a way of destroying the lives of those who stay too long. Ask anyone in town. The Blackstones are cursed." "Then why do you want to buy it so badly?" She recovered quickly, smoothing her features back into a professional smile. "Historical preservation. The Ashford Foundation is dedicated to maintaining Connecticut's architectural heritage." It was a lie. I could see it in her eyes, in the way she held herself like someone ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. Whatever the real reason, it had nothing to do with preserving history and everything to do with burying it. "I'll consider your offer. Give me your card and I'll be in touch." She handed me an embossed business card with obvious reluctance. "Don't wait too long, Miss Blackstone. Some opportunities don't come twice." After she drove away, I stood alone before the imposing facade of my inheritance. 3 stories of dark stone and weathered wood rose before me, punctuated by tall windows that seemed to watch like eyes. Gargoyles perched on the corners of the roof, their faces worn smooth by over a century of weather. The front door was massive oak, carved with intricate patterns that hurt to look at directly. The key turned easily in the lock, too easily, as if the house was eager to let me in. The interior took my breath away. Despite decades of neglect, the manor retained an austere grandeur. A sweeping staircase dominated the main hall, its banister carved from what looked like a single piece of mahogany. Dust motes danced in shafts of light from tall windows, and the air carried the scent of old wood and something else, something like roses and copper. I spent the first hour exploring, marveling at the preserved Victorian furnishings and the craftsmanship evident in every detail. The house was larger than it appeared from outside, room after room opening like Russian dolls. A formal dining room with a table that could seat 20. A library with floor-to-ceiling shelves still filled with leather-bound volumes. A conservatory where dead plants stood like skeletal fingers in ornate pots. It was in the conservatory that I first heard the whispers. At first, I thought it was just the wind moving through the broken panes of glass in the ceiling. But as I stood perfectly still, I realized the sounds were too rhythmic, too purposeful. Like, voices having a conversation just beyond the range of understanding. So I called out, "Hello, is someone there?" The whispers stopped immediately, leaving only this oppressive silence. I told myself it was just the old house settling, pipes creaking, wind in the walls, anything but what I feared. But as I continued my exploration, I couldn't shake the sensation of being watched. Portraits of long-dead Blackstones seemed to track my movement with their painted eyes. Shadows lingered in the corners, even when light should have dispelled them. The sun was already setting by the time I climbed up to the second floor. The bedrooms were shrouded in dust covers, but I could still make out 4-poster beds and ornate wardrobes beneath the sheets. At the end of the hall, there was a smaller staircase leading up to the 3rd floor, the servants' quarters and storage rooms. I was just about to head back downstairs when I noticed something odd about one of the bedroom doors. Unlike the others, which were all closed, this one stood just slightly ajar. Through the gap, I could see candlelight flickering. My heart hammered as I approached. There was no electricity in the house. I'd tried several switches with no result. How could there be a lit candle? I pushed the door open slowly, honestly expecting to find an intruder. Instead, I found a bedroom that looked as if someone had just stepped out for a moment. Fresh white linens on the bed, clothing laid out neatly on a chair, and on the vanity, 3 candles burning with steady flames that cast dancing shadows on the walls. A diary lay open on the writing desk, its pages filled with elegant feminine handwriting. My hands shook as I picked it up and read the visible entry. October 15th, 1847. Jeremiah grows more suspicious each day. He questions my every move, watches me like a hawk circling prey. If only he knew the truth, that his business partner Edmund Ashford has been meeting me in secret, professing his love and begging me to run away with him. The wedding is in 2 weeks, but I fear I cannot go through with it. My heart belongs to another, though society would never accept such a union. What am I to do? The entry was signed with a flourishing E. Eleanor, I realized. Jeremiah Blackstone's wife, my great-great-great-grandmother. But according to family records, Eleanor had died just 3 months after her wedding, falling down the main staircase in what was ruled an accident. I flipped through more pages, each entry revealing a story I'd never heard. Eleanor Hartwell had been engaged to Jeremiah Blackstone in an arranged marriage between 2 prominent families. But she'd fallen in love with Edmund Ashford, Jeremiah's business partner and closest friend. November 1st, 1847. The wedding was a nightmare. Jeremiah's eyes held a coldness I've never seen before, as if he knows about Edmund and me. During the ceremony, I caught Edmund watching from the back of the church, his face a mask of anguish. We've agreed to meet tomorrow night in the conservatory. He has a plan for us to escape together to California, where no one knows our names or our scandal. November 2nd, 1847. It's done. I've told Jeremiah I'm unwell and retired early. He suspects nothing. In an hour, I'll meet Edmund and we'll leave this cursed place forever. I only pray we can find happiness somewhere far from here. I've hidden my jewelry in the conservatory wall. If anything happens to us, perhaps someday someone will find it and know that we tried to choose love over duty. The final entry was different, the handwriting rushed and desperate. November 3rd, 1847. He knows. God help me, Jeremiah knows everything. I can hear him in the hallway calling my name. Edmund should have been here by now. Something's happened to him, I know it in my heart. If anyone finds this, know that we loved each other truly. Whatever Jeremiah does to me, I'll find a way to... The entry ended mid-sentence, the ink smeared as if the writer had been interrupted. I stared at the diary, my mind absolutely racing. According to the family history I'd been told, Eleanor had died in November 1847, falling down the stairs during her 3rd month of marriage. But these entries suggested something far more sinister. A love triangle, a planned elopement, and a husband who'd discovered the betrayal. A sudden gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing all 3 candles at once. In the sudden darkness, I heard a sound that honestly froze my blood. Footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate, moving toward the bedroom door. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, but before I could activate it, the candles flickered back to life on their own. The room was empty except for me, but the diary was gone from my hands. In its place lay a small brass key. The footsteps had stopped just outside the door. I could see a shadow beneath the gap, as if someone was standing there, waiting. But when I finally gathered the courage to yank the door open, the hallway was empty. My hands were shaking as I examined the key. It was old, ornately carved with symbols that matched the patterns on the front door. But this key was smaller, meant for a jewelry box or maybe a hidden compartment. I spent the rest of the evening exploring the conservatory, looking for the hiding place Eleanor had mentioned. The walls were covered in elaborate wallpaper depicting exotic birds and flowers, but behind the pattern, I could feel variations in the surface. Near the far corner, behind a withered rosebush and a massive pot, my fingers found a section of wall that felt different. Hollow. The key fit perfectly into a nearly invisible lock hidden in the wallpaper pattern. The panel swung open to reveal a small cavity containing a leather pouch. Inside were Eleanor's jewelry, emerald earrings, a pearl necklace, and a diamond engagement ring that wasn't the one I'd seen in family portraits. There was also a folded piece of paper. My great-great-great-grandmother's final message was brief but devastating. Edmund is dead. I found his body in the rose garden, his skull crushed. Jeremiah stands behind me now as I write this. He says I can join my lover or stay silent and live. But I know he'll never let me live, not with what I know. To whoever finds this, Edmund Ashford was murdered by Jeremiah Blackstone on November 2nd, 1847. I pray someday justice will be served. Eleanor Hartwell Blackstone, November 3rd, 1847. The implications hit me like a physical blow. My ancestor hadn't just been a jealous husband, he'd been a murderer. And Eleanor's accident had clearly been anything but accidental. But why did Victoria Ashford want the house so badly? Was she descended from Edmund, the murdered lover? And why, after more than 170 years, was this secret still worth killing for? I got my answer the next morning. I'd spent the night in Eleanor's room, partly because it was the most well-preserved in the house, and partly because I felt drawn to stay close to her story. I awoke to the sound of breaking glass downstairs. Grabbing a heavy brass candlestick as a weapon, I crept down the main staircase. The front door stood wide open, and muddy footprints led across the marble floor of the main hall. I followed them to the library, where I found Victoria Ashford rifling through the shelves, tossing books aside with desperate urgency. "Victoria, looking for something specific?" She spun around, her composed facade completely gone. Her suit was wrinkled, her hair disheveled, and her eyes held the wild look of desperation. "Sarah, where is it? I know it's here somewhere." "Where's what?" "The confession, the letter, whatever proof that bitch left behind." The venom in her voice when she spoke of Eleanor shocked me. "Why do you care about something that happened over a century ago?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Because that something destroyed my family." "Do you have any idea what it's like to grow up knowing your ancestor was branded a murderer? To have people whisper behind your back about the Ashford curse?" Edmund was murdered. The family records are lies. Edmund Ashford was not murdered by your precious ancestor. He was a thief and a seducer who got exactly what he deserved. But Eleanor's diary. Eleanor Blackstone was a lying whore who tried to steal my family's fortune. She convinced Edmund to help her break into Jeremiah's safe, to steal the business partnership documents that would have made him wealthy beyond imagining. When Jeremiah caught them, Edmund attacked him with a poker from the fireplace. Jeremiah killed him in self-defense. Victoria, that's not what happened. Sarah, isn't it? Then where's Edmund's body, Sarah? If he was murdered and buried in secret, where are his bones? I had no answer for that. The family legend said Edmund had left town suddenly, abandoning his business partnership with Jeremiah. His body had never been found. Victoria seemed to take strength from my silence. Eleanor knew she'd been caught helping Edmund steal from her own husband. She tried to blackmail Jeremiah, threatening to claim Edmund was murdered unless he gave her money to disappear. Instead, he did what any man would do to protect his honor. He pushed the lying bitch down the stairs. You're making this up. Victoria, am I? Then explain why Edmund's share of the business partnership made the Blackstone family wealthy for generations, while the Ashfords lost everything. Explain why there are no records of Edmund's death, no grave, no body. She pulled a leather portfolio from her jacket. These are the real family records, Sarah. Jeremiah Blackstone's private journals, stolen from this house by my great-grandfather in 1923. They tell the true story of what happened that November night. Against my better judgment, I took the portfolio and opened it. The handwriting was definitely masculine, bold strokes in dark ink. Jeremiah, November 3rd, 1847. I have done what needed to be done. Eleanor's lies die with her, and Edmund's theft dies with him. The business partnership documents are safe, and our family's future is secure. Let history remember them as star-crossed lovers if it must. Better that than the truth of their greed and betrayal. Jeremiah, November 10, 1847. The authorities have accepted Eleanor's death as an accident. Edmund's family believes he fled west in shame after their affair was discovered. The truth will remain buried with them both. I regret the necessity of violence, but some sins cannot be forgiven. I read entry after entry, each one painting Eleanor and Edmund as conspirators who tried to steal the partnership documents that controlled several lucrative shipping contracts. According to Jeremiah's account, they'd been caught in his study, documents in hand, when Edmund had attacked him with a fireplace poker. Even if this is true, it doesn't change the fact that Jeremiah killed 2 people. Victoria, it changes everything. Those partnership documents were worth millions in today's money. The Ashford family spent generations in poverty because of Eleanor's lies and Jeremiah's theft. We've been trying to recover what was stolen from us for over a century. And you think the documents are still here? I know they are. My family has been watching this house for decades, waiting for the right opportunity. Every time a Blackstone died, we made offers to buy it. But you people are too stubborn to let go of your precious family legacy. Understanding dawned on me. That's why you want the house. Not to preserve history, but to find the documents. The contracts are long expired, but there are other things. Maps showing land holdings, mineral rights, business connections that could still be valuable. This house is built on blood money, Sarah. Money that should have belonged to my family. I looked around the library, at the thousands of books and hiding places where documents could be concealed. You'll never find them. This house is enormous. That's where you're wrong. Victoria pulled out her phone and made a call. Victoria, it's time. Bring the equipment. Within an hour, the house was swarming with men in coveralls carrying metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar equipment, and other devices I didn't recognize. Victoria had obviously been planning this for some time. You can't just tear my house apart. I can do whatever I want. You see, I've done my research on you, Sarah Blackstone. Student loans totaling over $200,000, 3 part-time jobs, a credit score that would make a loan shark weep. You can't afford to keep this house, let alone restore it." She was right, and we both knew it. The property taxes alone were more than I made in a month. So here's my final offer. $5 million cash for the house and all its contents. You sign the papers now, and you walk away rich enough to start over anywhere you want. It was a fortune. More money than I'd ever dreamed of having. Enough to pay off my debts and live comfortably for the rest of my life. All I had to do was walk away and let Victoria tear the house apart looking for her family's lost fortune. But as I stood in that library, surrounded by the accumulated history of my family, I felt something I'd never experienced before. A connection to the past, a sense of belonging, and something else. A presence that seemed to be urging me to stay strong. No. Victoria's face twisted with rage. "You stupid girl, do you have any idea what you're turning down?" "I know exactly what I'm turning down, and I'm still saying no." She gestured to her men, who continued their systematic search of the house. "Then we'll do this the hard way. This house will be condemned for structural problems within a week. The town council owes my family several favors. You'll be forced to sell at a fraction of what I'm offering now. Get out of my house." "Make me." It was then that the house itself seemed to intervene. A window in the library slammed shut so hard the glass cracked. Books began falling from the shelves in systematic waves, creating a barrier between Victoria's men and the sections they hadn't yet searched. The temperature in the room dropped so suddenly I could see my breath. And then came the whispers, not just from one direction, but from everywhere at once. The walls, the ceiling, the floor itself seemed to be speaking in voices both male and female, words and languages I didn't recognize mixed with fragments in English. "Get out! Leave this place! Murderers! Thieves! Justice!" Victoria's men looked around in terror, their equipment registering readings that made no sense. Metal detectors screamed feedback, radar screens showed moving objects where nothing should exist, and electromagnetic field detectors went haywire. "It's just old wiring, keep searching," but her voice shook. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Cabinet doors began opening and slamming shut throughout the house. The chandelier in the main hall swayed violently despite the absence of any wind. And through it all I felt a presence standing beside me, protective, supportive, encouraging me to stand my ground. One of Victoria's men, a burly guy who'd looked unflappable when he arrived, suddenly dropped his equipment and ran for the door. "I'm not staying in this place another minute. You can keep your money." Another followed, then another. Within minutes, only Victoria and I remained in the library. "This isn't over," she said, gathering the equipment her men had abandoned. "No, you won't. This house has been protecting its secrets for over 170 years. It's not going to stop now." As if to emphasize my point, the front door slammed shut as Victoria tried to leave, the lock clicking audibly. She pulled on the handle frantically, but the door wouldn't budge. "Let me out of here!" I walked to the door calmly and turned the key. It opened easily for me. "The house doesn't like thieves." Victoria fled without another word, leaving tire tracks in the gravel as she sped away. That night, I sat in Eleanor's room and thought about everything I'd learned. The diary, Jeremiah's journals, Victoria's claims. Somewhere in all those conflicting stories was the truth. But which version was real? I was still pondering this when the candles lit themselves again and Eleanor appeared. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt a sense of peace I couldn't explain. She stood by the window, translucent but clearly visible, wearing a white nightdress that seemed to glow with its own light. Her face was young and beautiful but marked by infinite sadness. "You stayed." "I had to. This is my family's house, your family." "Do you know what your family did to me?" "I know what Victoria Ashford told me, I know what the diaries say, but I don't know what's true." Eleanor moved closer, and I could see the depression in her skull where something heavy had struck her. "Would you like to know the truth?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Jeremiah was a good man, but weak. Edmund was charming and handsome, but greedy. And I was foolish enough to believe that love could conquer everything. The room around us began to change. the walls becoming transparent, showing scenes from the past like moving photographs. I saw Eleanor as she'd been in life, vibrant, laughing, dancing at parties with eligible young men. I saw her first meeting with Jeremiah, formal and arranged, both of them polite but distant. And then I saw Edmund. He was Jeremiah's business partner. Younger, more exciting, everything that Jeremiah wasn't. He convinced me that we were destined to be together, that my marriage to Jeremiah was a travesty that would ruin both our lives. I watched Eleanor and Edmund's secret meetings, their stolen kisses, their desperate plans to run away together. But I also saw something else. Edmund rifling through Jeremiah's desk when he thought no one was watching, memorizing the contents of business documents, making copies of important papers. He was using you. I didn't realize it until it was too late. He convinced me to help him get access to Jeremiah's private study, claiming he needed to retrieve some partnership documents before we left. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The scene shifted to that fateful November night. Eleanor led Edmund into Jeremiah's study, where he immediately went to the safe. But instead of retrieving his own papers, he began stuffing contract after contract into a leather satchel. When I realized what he was doing, I tried to stop him. That's when Jeremiah found us. I watched in horror as the confrontation unfolded. Jeremiah's shock and hurt at finding his wife and business partner stealing from him. Edmund's desperate attempt to convince him that Eleanor was an unwilling participant. And then Edmund's decision to silence Jeremiah permanently. Edmund grabbed a heavy bronze letter opener from the desk and lunged at Jeremiah. The two men struggled, crashing into furniture, fighting for the weapon. In the end, it was Eleanor who picked up the fireplace poker, not to help Edmund but to save her husband. The blow to Edmund's head was meant to stun him, to stop the fight. Instead, it killed him instantly. Jeremiah was wounded. Edmund had stabbed him in the shoulder with the letter opener. He was bleeding badly, and I was trying to help him when he saw the satchel full of stolen documents. That's when he realized I'd been helping Edmund rob him. The ghostly images showed Jeremiah's face, changing from gratitude to suspicion to cold rage as he understood the extent of the betrayal. I tried to explain, to tell him that I'd realized my mistake and tried to stop Edmund. But Jeremiah was beyond reasoning. He saw his wife holding the weapon that had killed his best friend, surrounded by evidence of their theft. In his mind, we were conspirators who'd turned on each other. What happened next was almost too quick to follow. Jeremiah, wounded and enraged, grabbed Eleanor by the shoulders and shook her violently. She broke free and ran for the door, but he caught her at the top of the main staircase. He didn't mean to push me so hard. I could see the regret in his eyes even as I fell. But it was too late. I watched Eleanor's broken body lying at the bottom of the stairs, watched Jeremiah's anguish as he realized what he'd done, and then I watched him make the decision that would haunt the house for generations. Instead of calling for help, instead of telling the truth, Jeremiah buried Edmund's body in the rose garden and created a story that would protect his family's reputation. Eleanor became the victim of a tragic accident, and Edmund became the business partner who'd fled town in shame after their affair was discovered. The stolen documents, he kept them. He returned most of them to their proper files. But some, the most valuable ones, he kept as insurance. He hid them where he thought no one would ever find them. Eleanor smiled sadly. In the one place he knew I'd never be able to reach them, even in death. My tomb. The next morning, I drove to Millbrook Cemetery. Eleanor's grave was in the Blackstone family plot, marked by an elaborate marble angel whose face had been worn smooth by weather and time. The inscription was simple: Eleanor Hartwell Blackstone, beloved wife, 1825 to 1847. But it was the base of the monument that caught my attention. Unlike the other graves in the plot, Eleanor's had a small brass plaque set into the marble. The plaque bore the same strange symbols I'd seen on the key and the front door of the house. The key from Eleanor's room fit perfectly. Inside the hidden compartment were the documents Victoria Ashford had been seeking for over a century. Shipping contracts, land deeds, mineral rights, and business agreements that would have made the Ashford family wealthy beyond imagining. Jeremiah had hidden them with his wife's body, perhaps as a final act of penance for the lives he'd destroyed. But there was something else in the compartment, a letter addressed to the future keeper of Greystone Manor. If you are reading this, then the house has chosen you to know the truth. I have lived with the weight of my sins for 30 years, and I can bear the burden no longer. Eleanor was not the scheming adulteress I convinced myself she was. She was a young woman who made a mistake and died trying to correct it. Edmund was not the innocent victim his family believes him to be. He was a thief who would have destroyed both our families for his own gain. I have hidden the stolen documents with Eleanor's body so that they might rest with her in death as they could not in life. If the Ashford family ever seeks to claim what they believe is theirs, show them this letter and let them know that their ancestor's greed cost him his life and cost an innocent woman hers. I pray that someday, someone will find the strength to tell the truth that I was too cowardly to tell. May God forgive us all. Jeremiah Blackstone, December 25, 1877. I sat in the cemetery for a long time holding the letter and thinking about the weight of family secrets. 3 people had died because of greed, betrayal, and pride. Generations had suffered because one man couldn't admit his mistakes. But Eleanor had been right about one thing. The truth had a way of coming to light eventually. I drove back to Greystone Manor with a plan forming in my mind. Victoria Ashford wanted her family's stolen fortune, and she was willing to destroy my house to get it. But what she really needed was something more valuable than money. She needed the truth. The confrontation came that afternoon. Victoria arrived with a moving truck and a court order, claiming the house was structurally unsound and needed to be condemned for public safety. She had clearly called in every favor the Ashford family was owed in Millbrook. Last chance, Sarah. Sign the sale papers or watch us tear this place down board by board. Instead of answering, I handed her Jeremiah's letter and the original documents from Edmund's satchel. She read in silence, her face growing paler with each word. When she finished, she looked up at me with eyes full of tears. He really was a thief. He was a desperate man who made terrible choices, just like Jeremiah, just like Eleanor. All these years, we've been fighting to restore our family's honor. We thought Edmund was murdered for loving another man's wife. In a way, he was. But he was also stealing from that man. Your family wasn't innocent, Victoria, but neither was mine. She stared at the documents for a long time, then slowly tore them in half. These don't belong to either of our families. They belong to the people Edmund tried to steal from. Companies that are probably long gone, families that are probably extinct. What will you do now? Victoria looked up at the house, and for the first time since I'd met her, she seemed at peace. I'll tell my family the truth. All of it. We've spent over a century living a lie, hating people who didn't deserve our hatred, trying to recover something that was never ours to begin with. She called off her workers and climbed back into her car. But before she drove away, she rolled down the window. The house really is haunted, isn't it? But not by evil spirits, I said. Just by people who couldn't let go of their pain. Will you stay? I looked up at Greystone Manor, at its Gothic windows and weathered stone walls. For the first time since I'd inherited it, the house didn't look menacing. It looked like home. Someone needs to be its keeper, and Eleanor chose me. Victoria smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. Then maybe the curse really is broken. That night I sat in Eleanor's room one last time. The candles lit themselves as usual, but when Eleanor appeared, she looked different. The sadness was gone from her face, replaced by something like joy. You told the truth. It was time. Jeremiah was a good man who made terrible choices. Edmund was a charming man who made worse ones. And I was a foolish girl who thought love could solve everything. You were all human. You all made mistakes. Eleanor smiled, and as she did, her form began to fade. The house is yours now, Sarah. Take better care of it than we did. Will I see you again? Only if you need me, but I don't think you will. You have something we never had, the courage to face the truth instead of hiding from it. She faded away like morning mist, and I knew she was finally at peace. I've been living in Greystone Manor for 6 months now. I used Eleanor's hidden jewelry to pay for the most essential repairs, and I've been slowly restoring the house to its former glory. I even managed to get the electricity working, though I still prefer candles in Eleanor's room. The whispers have stopped, the cold spots have warmed, and the shadows no longer linger in corners where they don't belong. Victoria Ashford kept her word. She told her family the truth about Edmund, and the generations-old feud between our families has finally ended. Sometimes, late at night, I think I can still feel Eleanor's presence in the house. Not haunting it, but watching over it, making sure the truth stays told and the secrets stay buried where they belong. The house chose its keeper, just as Cordelia had said. And I chose to keep its trust. Some stories end with justice served and wrongs made right. But the best stories end with understanding of ourselves, our families, and the complicated truths that make us human. Greystone Manor stands on a hill in Connecticut, no longer cursed, no longer hiding its secrets. It's just a house now, old and beautiful and full of history. And I'm just its keeper, making sure that history is remembered honestly. The truth, as Eleanor always said, has a way of coming to light eventually. Sometimes it just takes someone brave enough to listen to the whispers in the walls. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring the bell to be notified of new stories as soon as they come out.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging right into a story tangled up in conflicting narratives, trying to unearth some hidden truths.
Yeah, peeling back the layers.
Exactly. Our mission today takes us inside, literally inside the walls of Greystone Manor, an old Victorian place just, well, dripping with rumors of dark family secrets. We've got a really interesting set of sources for this one. Diaries, journals, even this really cryptic note. We're following the story of Sarah Blackstone, who inherits the place.
And the big question is, what's really lurking in those walls? What secrets does a house like that hold?
Let's get into it.
What I find so compelling here is how we have to navigate these incredibly personal, often contradictory accounts. It's a real reminder that history isn't always neat.
Right. It depends who's telling the story.
Exactly. It's shaped by the writers, sometimes by the people trying to bury certain parts of it. So this isn't just like a spooky ghost story. It's really a look at family legacies, buried betrayals.
And how they echo down the generations.
For, in this case, over a century. It's quite something.
Okay, so let's start with Sarah Blackstone. Young woman, struggling, student loans, the usual stuff.
Right.
And then, out of the blue, she inherits Greystone Manor from her great-aunt Cordelia.
An unexpected windfall. Or maybe not so much a windfall.
Well, yeah, because it comes with this note. Pretty chilling, actually. Cordelia writes, Sarah, the house chooses its keeper. Don't let them take what isn't theirs. The truth lies in the walls.
Wow. Okay, so right away, that sets a very specific tone, doesn't it?
Definitely. What does that signal to you, that immediate mystery?
It tells you this isn't just about getting a free house. It's like an initiation, a challenge, really, to uncover something hidden, maybe something dangerous.
And when Sarah gets there, to Millbrook, Connecticut, which sounds pretty desolate, by the way, the whole scene just amplifies it.
Oh, absolutely. You picture this imposing Gothic manor, dark silhouette, those old whispering oaks.
Ah.
It's classic atmosphere.
And who's waiting for her? Practically on the doorstep, Victoria Ashford.
Right on cue.
And she doesn't waste any time.
Yeah.
Jumps right in with this super aggressive offer to buy the place.
Significantly above market value, the source says.
Yeah, which is immediately suspicious. And Victoria herself, she's got this unsettling vibe, right? Forced smile, kind of intense.
And making these vague comments about the house being trouble and the Blackstones being cursed.
It's pretty clear she's not just some random person wanting an old house. She has an agenda.
Definitely. And you have to remember Greystone Manor's reputation. It's infamous locally. Built back in 1847 by Jeremiah Blackstone.
The original Blackstone.
Right. And the place has this whole history, or maybe legend, of unexplained deaths, people disappearing, weird occurrences. Locals apparently still cross themselves when they walk past.
Seriously? after all this time.
Yeah. So for Victoria to be so desperate to buy this specific house, despite all that baggage, it makes you wonder what she really wants it for.
Which makes Sarah's refusal, even though she's broke, really stand out. She pretends she wants to turn it into a B&B.
You can almost picture Victoria's reaction to that forced smile getting even tighter.
Right. Victoria starts talking about historical preservation. But Sarah's gut feeling is strong. She thinks Victoria wants to bury history, not save it.
And that's the core question, isn't it? What history is so important, or maybe so damaging, that someone would go to such lengths to hide it? Sarah stepping inside the manor is where things really start to unravel.
Okay, so Sarah goes in. Describe the inside. What hits you first?
Well, the sources talk about this austere grandeur, sweeping staircase, dust motes hanging in the air.
You can almost smell it, right? Old wood, roses, and weirdly copper.
Yeah, that copper scent is mentioned. A bit unsettling. And then she heads into the conservatory. Dead plants everywhere, very atmospheric.
And that's where she hears them, the whispers.
Right. Not just random sounds, but described as rhythmic, purposeful, like voices you can't quite make out. Genuinely creepy.
Super creepy. And then she finds Eleanor's bedroom,
which is described as being eerily untouched, like someone was just there.
But the really strange part, 3 lit candles on the vanity, and there's no electricity in the house.
Okay, that's undeniably weird. And this is where Eleanor Hartwell Blackstone properly enters the picture. Jeremiah's wife, Sarah's great-great-great-grandmother.
And what Sarah finds next is just explosive. Eleanor's diary, open on the desk.
And those entries? Heartbreaking stuff, detailing this forbidden love affair she was having.
With Edmund Ashford, who was Jeremiah's business partner and his brother.
Wow, okay, complicated.
Very. They were planning to elope to California, and Eleanor writes about hiding her jewelry in the conservatory wall.
Yeah.
Like choosing love over duty.
But that last entry, November 3rd, 1847, that's the really chilling one.
Yeah, it just cuts off. He knows. God help me, Jeremiah knows everything. Whatever Jeremiah does to me, I'll find a way to... And the ink is smeared like she was interrupted mid-sentence.
Which clashes completely with the official story, right? The family history says she died just 3 months after the wedding. An accident. Fell down the stairs.
Exactly. So you've got this immediate massive discrepancy. What do you make of that? And how the house seems to react right then?
It's like the house itself validates the diary. The candles go out, then relight themselves. The diary vanishes. Poof. And in its place, a small brass key appears.
And then she hears footsteps in the hall, sees a shadow. It's like the house is saying, yes, this is true. Keep digging.
That key. It's a physical clue, isn't it? A tangible link to Eleanor's story. Sarah uses it, finds this hidden spot in the conservatory wall.
And there's the jewelry Eleanor wrote about, but also another message, a final devastating one.
This is the first big crack in that official narrative. What does the message say?
It's blunt. Edmund is dead. I found his body in the rose garden, his skull crushed. Jeremiah stands behind me now as I write this.
Whoa.
Edmund Ashford was murdered by Jeremiah Blackstone on November 2nd, 1847. I pray someday justice will be served.
So not only was her ancestor a murderer, but Eleanor's death definitely wasn't an accident. This flips the entire family history on its head.
Completely. It shows how easily these official stories, these family histories, can be just constructed narratives built on lies or misdirection.
It really does. History written by the one left standing, determined to protect his name. What Sarah found is the first hard proof that the story everyone knew was fiction.
It's a huge moment.
Yeah.
And just as she's trying to process this, who bursts in?
Let me guess, Victoria Ashford.
You got it. She breaks in, frantic, searching the library, yelling about needing the confession, the letter, whatever proof that bitch left behind.
That bitch, meaning Eleanor, presumably.
Wow.
The animosity is palpable.
Oh, yeah. It's his deep family grudge. The Ashfords, for generations, believe their ancestor Edmund was framed as a murderer or thief, and that the Blackstones destroy their family because of it.
So now we get the other side, the clash of narratives playing out right there in the library. Victoria has her own version of events.
And she claims to have proof. Jeremiah Blackstone's private journals, apparently stolen by her great-grandfather way back in 1923.
Okay, so what's Victoria's story, according to these journals?
Her version. Eleanor was a lying whore. Her words conspiring with Edmund to steal Jeremiah's important business papers. Victoria claims Edmund attacked Jeremiah first, and Jeremiah killed him in self-defense.
And Eleanor's fall down the stairs.
Victoria says Jeremiah pushed her after she tried to blackmail him about Edmund's death. A completely different sequence of events.
It sounds plausible in a grim way. especially if Jeremiah's own journals seem to back it up, even partially. How do you even start to untangle that?
Well, Jeremiah's entries from November 3rd and 10th, 1847, do seem to confirm he killed Edmund and that Eleanor fell. But he frames it all as a necessity of violence, protecting his family, his wealth, his reputation from what he calls greed and betrayal.
It's a masterclass in spin, isn't it? Justifying horrific actions to preserve a legacy. So who benefits from which story? That's always the question.
Exactly. You've got two families locked in this feud for over a century, each clinging to a narrative that defines them. And the stakes are massive. Those missing business documents, apparently worth millions today.
Right. And the Ashfords have been living in relative poverty all this time, convinced they were robbed, trying to reclaim what they thought was theirs. It's about money, reputation, truth, everything.
Which explains Victoria's desperation and leads her to make this final incredible offer to Sarah.
The big one.
$5 million cash.
Yeah.
And she makes it clear she knows exactly how badly Sarah needs it. Student loans, juggling jobs, bad credit. She lays it all out.
That's immense pressure. Life-changing money just handed to her.
It really is. But Sarah, she feels this connection to the house, to Eleanor maybe, a presence. And despite everything, she refuses Victoria.
A brave move. And that's when the house itself seems to step in.
Oh, big time. It gets really dramatic. Windows slam shut, books start flying off shelves, but like systematic...
There's random poltergeist stuff?
No, in systematic waves, the source says. The temperature plummets, and those whispers, they get loud, angry.
What are they saying?
Things like, get out, leave this place. Murderers, thieves.
Justice. It's terrifying. I bet. What about Victoria's backup? She had men with her, right?
Yeah, a couple of guys with equipment, probably planning to gut the place or search for documents.
Yeah.
But their gear goes crazy. Metal detectors screaming, radar showing impossible things, AMF meters off the charts. They panic and bolt.
Can't blame them. And Victoria.
She tries to leave too, but the massive front door slams shut and locks itself. Won't budge for her.
But it opens for Sarah.
Opens easily. And Sarah just looks at Victoria and says, the house doesn't like thieves.
Wow, that is quite a statement. The house acting as protector, judge, jury. It's deciding who belongs and who doesn't, protecting its secrets and its keeper.
So after all that chaos, Sarah goes back to Eleanor's room. The candles light up again, and then Eleanor's ghost appears. Translucent. Actual visible this time.
Okay, so this is it. The full story, straight from the source. No more diaries, no more interpretations. What does Eleanor reveal?
This is where it gets really complex and, honestly, tragic. Eleanor confesses everything. And apparently the walls of the room become transparent, showing scenes from the past like a movie.
Whoa, okay.
Turns out, Edmund's charm. It was mostly an act. He was greedy. He used Eleanor to get access to Jeremiah's study to steal those valuable business documents. So Victoria wasn't entirely wrong about that part.
So Edmund wasn't just the romantic victim. And Eleanor...
She wasn't initially part of his plan, but maybe she was naive, caught up in the romance. But here's the biggest twist. The night it all went down,
Yes.
Jeremiah did catch them. Edmund did attack Jeremiah with a letter opener. But Eleanor, she grabbed the fireplace poker.
To help Edmund?
No. That's the key. She grabbed it to save her husband, Jeremiah, but in the struggle, trying to stop Edmund, she accidentally hit Edmund and killed him.
Oh my God. So she killed Edmund accidentally.
Yeah. She wasn't a conspirator trying to rob Jeremiah. She was trying to protect him when it all went wrong.
But Jeremiah didn't see it that way.
No. He was wounded, enraged, maybe in shock. He saw Eleanor standing there with the poker, Edmund dead, the stolen papers scattered. He assumed the worst. That they were partners in crime who'd maybe turned on each other, or that she had betrayed him completely.
He couldn't see the truth in that moment.
He was beyond reason. Blinded by pain and fury, he started shaking her, demanding answers, and in that rage, he accidentally pushed her down the main staircase.
So her death was kind of an accident, but caused by him in a moment of mistaken fury after she had actually tried to save him. That's incredibly tragic. A cascade of misunderstandings.
Utterly tragic. And Jeremiah, probably horrified by what he'd done, but also desperate to protect the family name from the scandal of theft, murder, betrayal, he made a choice.
The cover-up.
Bury Edmund's body in the rose garden. Create the story of Eleanor's accidental fall. Let people assume Edmund fled in disgrace after being caught stealing. Protect the Blackstone legacy at all costs.
What a burden to carry. And Eleanor reveals one last thing, doesn't she? The location of the most valuable documents Edmund stole.
Yes. The final irony. She tells Sarah they're hidden in my tomb.
Wow. Okay. That leads Sarah directly to the final piece of the puzzle. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many family secrets, how much of accepted history is built on foundations like that? Misinterpretations, desperate acts.
So Sarah heads straight to Millbrook Cemetery, finds Eleanor's grave, and there's a small brass plaque, symbols matching the key she found earlier.
A key fits?
Fits perfectly. Opens a hidden compartment in the grave itself.
The inside.
The documents. The very ones Victoria was tearing the house apart for, but also a letter.
From Jeremiah Blackstone, dated Christmas Day, 1877.
Addressed to
The future keeper of Greystone Manor. It's his confession.
After all those years, what does he say?
He writes about living with his sin for 30 years. He admits Eleanor wasn't scheming against him, that she died trying to fix a mistake, essentially. He confirms Edmund was a thief.
Does he admit pushing Eleanor? The implication is there, talking about his immense guilt over her death. And he gives a specific instruction. Show this letter to the Ashfords. Let them finally know the truth about their ancestors' greed. It's like he's trying to set the record straight, finally, through whoever comes after him.
A posthumous attempt at correction. A legacy-defining moment.
Absolutely. So Sarah goes back to Greystone, and who's there?
Victoria, again.
Yep. This time with a moving truck, and she's waving a court order to condemn the house, ready to tear it down.
The final showdown.
But Sarah doesn't fight. She just walks up and hands Victoria Jeremiah's letter and the original document Edmund stole.
Just like that. What happens when those two narratives, those two deeply held family beliefs, finally collide with the actual undeniable proof?
It's incredibly powerful. Victoria reads the letter, sees the documents. Her face just drains of color. Tears start streaming down her face. She finally whispers, "He really was a thief."
All those generations of believing they were wronged, overturned in an instant.
And then she does something amazing. She takes the documents, the proof of Edmund's theft, and she tears them up.
Really? Why?
She says they belong to neither family now. It's over. The feud, the obsession, it ends right there. She says she'll tell her family the truth, that they spent, quote, over a century living a lie, hating people who didn't deserve our hatred, trying to recover something that was never ours to begin with.
That's huge. Acceptance. Letting go of generations of bitterness. It's incredibly cathartic, really.
It really is. And as Victoria's leaving, kind of shaken, she asks Sarah, the house really is haunted, isn't it?
And Sarah's reply.
But not by evil spirits, just by people who couldn't let go of their pain, which feels so right after everything.
Oh, that's insightful.
And just then, Eleanor's ghost appears one last time, but peaceful now. The sadness is gone. She seems to thank Sarah, maybe just with a look, and then fades away. Finally at peace.
Because the truth is out. That really ties it all together, doesn't it? How uncovering these difficult truths, however painful, is what ultimately allows for peace, for letting go. Not just for ghosts, but for the living descendants, too.
Fast forward 6 months. Sarah's living in Greystone Manor.
She kept it.
She did, using Eleanor's jewelry, the stuff she found on the wall, to pay for essential repairs. Slowly bringing the house back to life.
And the atmosphere, the creepiness.
Gone. Completely changed. The whispers stopped. The cold spots are warm. No more shadows. The feud between the Blackstones and Ashfords is actually over. Done.
Wow.
And Sarah feels this deep connection to the place now. Not as a haunted house, but as home. Old, beautiful, full of history, yes, but her history now. She's become its keeper, like Cordelia's note said, making sure the real story is remembered.
It's a powerful illustration of how distorted history can become, through pride or greed or fear, and how those distortions ripple down through time. It makes you think, what happens when the facts we rely on, the stories we inherit, turn out to be, well, fictions, or just tragic mistakes?
Yeah. The truth, like Eleanor wrote in that first desperate note, it really does seem to find a way out eventually. Sometimes, like here, it just needs someone brave enough to actually listen to the whispers in the walls. It definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What complex truths might be waiting in the narratives you've always accepted, maybe in your own family history? What whispers might be out there, waiting for someone to finally hear them?